Night had already broken before anyone realized it. Not the sky was still there, heavy and low over Astravel, pressing the scent of pine smoke and damp earth into the square. It was something underneath. Something inside bone and blood. The wolf tore through it. It wasn't hunting. It wasn't even angry. It was gone. Claws skidded across stone slick with spilled water and something darker. A wooden stall splintered under its weight. Iron bells screamed from the watchpost, their rhythm broken, frantic, too fast to be signal, too uneven to be warning. People ran without direction. That was how you knew it was bad. The wolf lunged again, jaws snapping at empty air where a man had been half a breath before. Its movements were wrong, too sharp, too erratic, like its limbs weren't listening to each other. Foam clung to its teeth. Its eyes. Not gold. Not even wild. Clouded. Caelric Ashforn hit it from the side. They went down hard, shoulder first into stone. The impact rattled through his ribs, but he held on, driving his weight into the wolf's spine, forearm locked against its throat. "Hold," someone shouted, somewhere behind him. Useless. They couldn't hold this. The wolf twisted beneath him with a strength that didn't belong to muscle. Its hind leg kicked, claws carving a line through his thigh. He didn't feel it properly. Not yet. Heat would come later. He tightened his grip. "Easy," he said, low, not for the others. For the thing under his hands. "Easy. Come back." The wolf snapped at him. Its teeth closed a hair from his jaw. Caelric didn't flinch. He leaned closer instead, breath steady despite the copper-thick air. And then he caught it. Not blood. Not fear. Something underneath. Rot. Not the smell of death, he knew that well enough. This was different. Sour, wrong. Like something inside the wolf had turned against itself. His grip faltered for half a second. That was all it took. The wolf surged. They rolled, stone scraping skin, and suddenly the weight shifted. Claws pinned his shoulder. Teeth came down. A blade flashed. Not striking. Just close enough to turn the wolf's head. It snarled, distracted for a heartbeat. Long enough. Caelric drove his knee up, twisted, forced the wolf sideways again. His hand found the back of its neck, fingers buried deep in coarse fur, pressing, controlling, but not killing. He could. He should. The angle was there. The strength was there. But it wasn't gone. Not fully. He could feel it. Somewhere beneath the madness, something still fought. "Caelric," a voice called. "End it." His jaw tightened. The wolf bucked harder, a broken sound tearing from its throat, half snarl, half something else. Something that didn't belong in a predator's mouth. Not rage. Pain. "I said hold." Caelric snapped back. His voice cut through the square, rough and sharp enough to halt the nearest movement. For a moment, even the bells seemed to stutter. The wolf thrashed again. His grip slipped. Teeth grazed his forearm, just enough to break skin. The scent of his own blood hit the air. The wolf went still. Not calm. Not controlled. Focused. Its clouded eyes fixed on him, something hungry sharpening inside them. Caelric felt his own wolf stir in answer. Not fear. Not even anger. Recognition. That was worse. Then a shift. Not in the wolf. In the air. It was subtle. Most wouldn't notice. But Caelric did. A different scent threaded through the chaos. Clean. Cold. Like frost over iron. Wrong place. Wrong moment. He turned his head. She was already walking toward them. No weapon drawn. No hesitation. Lyreth Blackmorn moved through the scattered villagers like they weren't there, boots steady against the stone, chainmail whispering softly with each step. The half-cape at her shoulder stirred in the wind, wolf fur catching the torchlight. Someone tried to grab her arm. She slipped free without breaking stride. "Stay back," another voice shouted. She didn't. Caelric's focus snapped back to the wolf for half a breath, just long enough to keep it pinned, to keep its teeth from finding flesh again, then returned to her. She shouldn't be here. Not this close. "Stop," he said, low, controlled, the command threaded with something deeper than authority. She didn't stop. Her eyes flicked at him once. Storm blue. Steady. Assessing. Then back to the wolf. She came closer. Too close. The wolf felt her before it saw her. Its body tensed under Caelric's grip, not lunging this time, but shifting, uncertain. The snarl in its throat faltered, jagged, confused. Lyreth stopped a few paces away. Close enough now that Caelric could see the fine scar cutting through one brow, the faint scatter of freckles across her nose beneath the grime and torchlight. No fear. That was the first wrong thing. The second. Her breathing. Even. Measured. As if she were stepping into a quiet room, not a killing ground. "Let me touch him," she said. Her voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It carried anyway, slipping cleanly through the noise. Caelric stared at her. For a moment, he thought he'd misheard. "What?" The wolf twisted again beneath him, snapping blindly now, attention split, but Caelric barely felt it. "Let me touch him," she repeated. Closer now. Too close. No, the word came out sharper than he intended. Immediate. Instinctive. Get back. She didn't argue. Didn't push. She just took another step. The wolf's head turned toward her fully now. Its nostrils flared. Its body went rigid, as if caught between two commands it couldn't follow. "Do you want to kill him?" she asked. Caelric's grip tightened. "That's not your concern." "It is," she said, calm as before. "If you don't, someone else will." A beat. The truth of it sat there, heavy and unavoidable. Behind her, someone shifted. A spear lowered. Waiting. The wolf shuddered under his hands. Time thinned. "Back," Caelric said again, quieter this time, but no less firm. "You don't know what this is." Her gaze met his. There was something in it then. Not defiance. Not arrogance. Certainty. "I do," she said. And before he could stop her, she moved. Not fast. Not reckless. Just enough. Her hand came down against the wolf's neck. Everything stopped. Not slowly. Not gradually. Stopped. The wolf froze beneath him like the life had been pulled out and then returned in a different shape. Its muscles unlocked. Its jaws slackened. The sound in its throat cut off mid-snarl. Its breathing slowed. Once. Twice. Its eyes cleared. The clouded film receded, leaving behind something raw and disoriented, but aware. Alive. Caelric didn't move. Didn't breathe. He felt it happen under his hands, felt the shift ripple through the wolf's body like something being untangled from the inside. Impossible. The square went silent. Even the bells had stopped. Lyreth kept her hand there for a heartbeat longer. Then she pulled away. The wolf didn't lunge. Didn't snap. It sagged against the stone, exhausted, head dropping to the ground with a dull, heavy sound. Alive. Caelric released it slowly, every muscle still coiled, waiting for the lie, for the sudden return of teeth and madness. It didn't come. He looked up. Lyreth swayed. Just slightly. If he hadn't been watching, he might have missed it. Her shoulders tightened. Her breath hitched once, sharp and shallow. Then, a thin line of blood slipped from her nose. She lifted a hand, almost absently, brushing at it as if it were nothing. It wasn't nothing. He could smell it now. Not injury. Not quite. Something else. Her pulse stuttered. He could hear it from where he knelt, too uneven, too faint. She took a step back. Her balance went with it. Caelric moved before he thought. His hand caught her arm. Skin to skin. Heat. Not warmth. Not the simple contact of another body. This was sharper. Immediate. Like gripping something that burned from the inside out. Lyreth gasped. The sound was small, but it cut through him harder than the wolf's snarl had. Her body jerked under his hand. Not away. Through. Like something passed between them that shouldn't have. His wolf surged. Not in anger. Not in defense. Something else. Something that reached. He let go. Fast. Too fast. Lyreth staggered back, breath unsteady now, one hand braced against her ribs as if holding something in place. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The square slowly came back to life around them, voices rising in cautious disbelief, footsteps inching closer, but it all felt distant. Muted. Caelric's focus stayed on her. On the way she steadied herself. On the way she didn't meet his eyes immediately. On the way her fingers trembled once before stilling. What, he started, then stopped. He didn't have the words for it. Didn't have a shape to put around what he'd just felt. Lyreth drew in a slow breath. Another. When she looked at him again, her expression was controlled. Too controlled. Don't, she said quietly. He frowned. Don't what? Her gaze dropped briefly to his hand. Then back to his face. Do that again. A pause. The meaning settled in. Heavy. Wrong. Caelric glanced at the wolf, still alive, still breathing, still itself, then back at her. You stopped it, he said. Not a question. Her jaw tightened slightly. For now. Another drop of blood slipped from her nose. This time she didn't wipe it away. And what did it cost you? He asked. She didn't answer. Didn't need to. He could see it. In the way her shoulders held tension that hadn't been there before. In the faint pallor under her sun-browned skin. In the way her scent had shifted, just slightly, losing that clean edge, something fraying at the edges. Caelric stepped closer without thinking. She stiffened immediately. Stay, she said. Not loud. But it stopped him. He held there, a single pace away. Close enough to see the fine details of her face. Close enough to feel the echo of that contact still lingering in his palm. What are you? He asked. Her mouth almost curved. Not quite a smile. Not something you should be touching, she said. Behind them, the wolf let out a low, confused sound, alive, aware, no longer lost. Caelric didn't look away from her. Didn't move closer either. For the first time in a long while, he didn't trust his own instincts. Not the part that wanted to close the distance. Not the part that had answered when he touched her. He flexed his hand once. the memory of it was still there. Sharp. Unnatural. He exhaled slowly. Then, quieter. Who told you to come here? Lyreth's gaze drifted past him, toward the village, toward the scattered people slowly gathering their courage again. No one, she said. A beat. Then, softer. I go where it starts. Caelric watched her for a long moment. The bells were silent now. The square held its breath. And somewhere under all of it, under the noise, the questions, the fragile relief, something else had settled in. Not peace. Not yet. Something waiting. He looked at her again. At the blood she hadn't wiped away. At the distance she insisted on keeping. At the space between them that suddenly felt like the most dangerous thing in the square. And for the first time, the thought came clear. Not instinct. Not assumption. Understanding. He realized, too late. She was not just the cure. She was not meant to be touched. The square didn't settle. It only learned how to breathe again. Voices came back first, low, uncertain, as if speaking too loudly might break whatever had just been restored. The wolf still lay where Caelric had left it, chest rising in slow, exhausted pulls, eyes no longer clouded but not entirely steady either. Someone draped a cloak over its back. No one got too close. They were watching it. They were watching her. Caelric felt it shift without needing to look, the way attention moved, like wine through tall grass, all of it bending toward Lyreth Blackmorn. She stood where he had left her, one hand still loosely curled at her side, the other faintly stained with drying blood she hadn't wiped away. Her breathing had evened, mostly. Only someone close would notice the slight delay between inhale and exhale. The effort it took to keep it that way. He noticed. He noticed too much. Inside, he said. It came out quieter than his earlier commands, but it carried the same weight. Not for the crowd this time. For her. Lyreth glanced at him, measuring. Not resisting, just deciding. A flicker of something unreadable crossed her eyes before she nodded once. Fine. No argument. No show of strain. That almost made it worse. Caelric turned before anyone could interrupt, before questions could take shape into something louder, and started toward the longhouse at the edge of the square. He didn't check if she followed. He didn't need to. He could feel it. Not her steps, not exactly. Something else. A thin, steady awareness at the edge of his senses, like the moment before a storm breaks. It hadn't been there before. Not like this. He kept walking. The village shifted around them as they passed, timber walls blackened by old winters, bone totems hanging from doorways, carved and worn smooth by years of handling. Fires burned low in shallow pits, their smoke carrying resin and ash into the damp night air. Astravel always smelled like survival. Tonight, it smelled like something trying to fail. They're getting worse. Her voice came from just behind him. Closer than he expected. Caelric didn't slow. You've seen it elsewhere, he said. Not a question. Yes. A beat of silence stretched between them, filled with the sound of boots against packed earth, the distant murmur of the square trying to rebuild itself. How many? He asked. Enough. Not evasive. Just, measured. He glanced back then. She was walking a step to his right now, not quite beside him. Close enough that he could see the fine tension held through her shoulders, the way her fingers flexed once before settling again. Close enough that her scent reached him more clearly. Clean. Cold. And under it now. Something fraying. He looked forward again. They don't come back, he said. Not once it takes hold. They did tonight. The words weren't sharp. They didn't need to be. Caelric's jaw tightened slightly. That wasn't coming back, he said. That was something else. Was it? He didn't answer. Because he didn't know. They reached the longhouse. The heavy wooden doors stood open, light spilling out in a low, steady glow. Inside, the air would be warmer. Thicker. Easier to control. Or harder. He stepped in first. The heat hit immediately, banked fire at the center pit, smoke curling up through the vent above. The familiar sense grounded him for half a breath. Wood. Iron. Old leather. Safe things. Lyreth stepped in behind him. The air shifted. It wasn't imagination. He could feel the way his body reacted before his mind caught up, muscles tightening, senses sharpening, something inside him leaning toward her without permission. He moved further in, putting space between them before it could turn into something else. Sit, he said, gesturing toward a low bench near the fire. She didn't sit. Instead, she walked past it, slow, deliberate, stopping near one of the carved support posts. Close enough to the warmth, but not within reach of him. Always just outside reach. I'm fine, she said. It wasn't true. He didn't argue it. Instead, he reached for a clay pitcher near the fire, poured water into a cup, and set it on the edge of the bench. Not handing it to her. Not closing the distance. A choice. She watched him do it. That same unreadable flicker passed through her expression again, something quieter this time. Not surprise. Not quite approval. Recognition, maybe. She crossed the space herself, picked up the cup, and drank. Slowly. Carefully. As if even that required thought. Caelric leaned back against the opposite post, arms folding loosely across his chest. The distance between them held. Measured. Intentional. For a moment, neither spoke. The fire cracked softly between them. Outside, the village murmured on. Inside, the silence stretched, not empty, but full. Watching. Waiting. You didn't kill him, she said finally. Caelric's gaze stayed on her. No. You should have. Maybe. Another pause. Her fingers tightened slightly around the cup. But you didn't, she said. He shrugged once. It wasn't gone. Her eyes lifted to his. And if next time it is? There it was. Not a challenge. A test. Caelric held her gaze, steady. Then I end it. No hesitation. No softness. The truth, as he understood it. Lyreth studied him for a long moment, something shifting behind her eyes. Not disappointment. Not relief either. Something more complicated. Good, she said quietly. The word sat between them, heavier than it should have. Caelric pushed off the post slightly, just enough to change the angle of his stance. You said you've seen this elsewhere, he said. When did it start? Lyreth's attention dropped to the fire. Months ago, she said. Maybe longer. It doesn't begin the same way every time. How does it begin? A delay, she said. Small things. Slower responses. Missed sense. Then, irritation. Then nothing holds. Her thumb brushed the rim of the cup. Then they're gone. Caelric listened. Measured it against what he'd seen. What he'd smelled. The rot. And you just walk into it, he asked. Village to village? Yes. Alone? Yes. Why? That made her look up again. Not guarded. Not defensive. Just still. For the same reason you didn't kill him, she said. The answer landed sharper than he expected. Caelric exhaled once through his nose, a quiet, almost humorless sound. That's not a reason, he said. It is, she replied. You just don't like it. Maybe. He let that sit. Watched her instead. The steadiness in her posture hadn't fully returned. He could see it now, the way she favored one side just slightly, the way her breath still came a fraction too shallow when she thought he wasn't paying attention. And beneath it, that same pull. Stronger now. Not just awareness. Not just curiosity. His wolf shifted under his skin, restless, attentive in a way that had nothing to do with threat. It was focused on her. He pushed it down. Hard. You said not to touch you, he said. Her grip on the cup stilled. Yes. What happens if someone does? The question settled into the room, heavier than anything before it. Lyreth didn't answer immediately. The fire cracked again, a low, shifting sound. Outside, a voice called, faint, distant. Life continuing. Inside, the space between them tightened. Finally, she set the cup down. Carefully. As if sudden movements mattered. It depends, she said. On what? On the wolf. Caelric's gaze sharpened slightly. And me? He asked. Her eyes flicked to him, then away, then back again, faster this time, like she hadn't meant to answer that part so directly. A mistake. Small. But there. It would be worse, she said. Not dramatic. Not exaggerated. Just certain. Something in his chest tightened. Worse how? Lyreth held his gaze now. Didn't look away. For me, she said. A beat. Then. For you, it wouldn't feel like something you'd want to stop. Silence. It stretched, thinner this time. More dangerous. Caelric didn't move. Didn't step closer. But the distance between them felt different now. Charged. He became aware, suddenly, of his own breathing. Slower than before. Deeper. Controlled. You're assuming a lot, he said. Am I? Yes. Her head tilted slightly. Then come closer and prove me wrong. The words were quiet. Almost conversational. But they landed like a strike. Caelric's body reacted before his mind did, a subtle shift forward, weight changing, attention narrowing. His wolf surged. Not violently. Not out of control. But with intent. Curiosity. Something sharper beneath it. He stopped himself. Held there. One step would close the distance. One step. He didn't take it. Lyreth watched him. Didn't move either. Didn't retreat. For the first time since he'd seen her, there was something unguarded in her expression. Not fear. Not quite. Anticipation. And something that looked dangerously close to wanting. The realization hit him harder than anything that had happened in the square. Not because of what it meant for her. But because of what it did to him. He straightened slightly, forcing space back into his posture, even if the distance between them hadn't changed. No, he said. Simple. Final. Lyreth's expression didn't shift much. But something in her eyes did. A flicker. Gone too quickly to name. Good, she said again, softer this time. But it didn't sound the same. Caelric exhaled slowly, tension settling into something quieter but no less present. You heal them, he said. You weaken. Yes. And if you keep doing it? She didn't answer. Didn't need to. He could see it. In the slight tremor she was still holding back. In the way her scent continued to thin at the edges. How long? He asked. Lyreth looked at him. Really looked this time. Measuring. Deciding. A while, she said. Not a number. Not a promise. Just enough truth to hold shape without giving anything away. Caelric's jaw tightened again. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. Another test. Another line drawn. He pushed off the post fully this time, taking a step, not toward her, but sideways, changing the angle again, keeping movement in the space without breaking the boundary she'd set. Or the one he had. Outside, the wind shifted. Pine and smoke pressed briefly against the walls. Inside, the fire burned lower. We have more like him, he said. Already turning. I know. You'll help them. Yes. Even now. Even like this. Caelric studied her, something heavier settling under his ribs. And you expect me to just stand back, he said. Lyreth's gaze held his. That's exactly what I expect. And if I don't? A pause. Small. Sharp. Then you'll learn what I meant, she said. Quiet. Steady. Not a threat. A fact. The space between them narrowed again, not in distance, but in weight. In awareness. Caelric felt it. Felt the edge of something he didn't fully understand, but couldn't ignore. He looked at her, at the strength she was holding together, at the damage she wasn't showing, at the line she refused to let him cross. And for a moment, something else rose under the restraint. Not instinct. Not his wolf. Choice. You don't get to decide that alone, he said. Her breath caught. Just slightly. He saw it. So did she. The realization passed between them, unspoken. That this, whatever it was no longer just hers to manage. Lyreth's fingers curled at her sides. You don't understand what you're offering, she said. Then explain it. No. The refusal came faster this time. Sharper. Because it mattered more. Caelric took a breath, slow, deliberate. Held her gaze. I'm not asking permission, he said. Another pause. Longer. He saw it then, the crack, small but real, in the control she'd been holding since the square. Not weakness. Pressure. And under it. Something that answered him. Not with words. With presence. With the fact that she hadn't left. That she was still standing here. Still within reach. Lyreth exhaled, slow and unsteady in a way she couldn't quite hide anymore. You should, she said quietly. Why? Because I won't stop. She didn't say it. But it was there. In her eyes. In the way she didn't step back. In the way the distance between them suddenly felt like the only thing keeping something dangerous from becoming real. Caelric didn't move. Didn't close it. But he didn't step away either. And for the first time, that felt like a decision neither of them fully controlled. The fire shifted. The room dimmed slightly. Outside, another bell rang, distant this time. Not panic. Warning. Caelric's attention flickered toward the door for half a breath. Then back to her. Always back to her. You should stay away from me, Lyreth said. Soft. Not a command. Almost a request. He held her gaze. Measured the space. The pull. The risk. Then, just as quiet. No. The bell didn't stop after the first strike. It rang again, lower this time, slower. Not panic. Not yet. A warning that hadn't decided what it wanted to become. Caelric was already moving before the second echo faded. The shift in him was immediate, focus narrowing, everything extraneous dropping away. But the awareness of her didn't. It stayed. Close. Too close. Lyreth moved with him. Not behind. Not ahead. Alongside, but angled, keeping that same deliberate distance she'd held since the square. As if she measured every step against him without looking. They crossed the village quickly. The air had changed again, tighter, thinner. People were no longer running, but they weren't still either. Watching. Waiting. Listening for something worse to follow. It's another? Caelric asked. Yes. She didn't need to see it. He glanced at her once. You can feel it? I can feel the absence, she said. That sat wrong in his chest. They reached the edge of the lower row of houses, where the ground dipped slightly toward the tree line. The healing hut stood apart from the others, older wood, darker, its doorway hung with strips of bone and dried herbs that rattled softly in the wind. Two men stood outside, holding a rope pulled tight between them. The rope strained. Something inside hit the far wall hard enough to shake the frame. Since when? Caelric asked as he stepped forward. Not long, one of the men said. He turned fast. Faster than the last. Caelric nodded once. Of course he did. He could smell it now, faint even through the door. That same sour edge. Rot under fur. He reached for the handle. Lyreth's voice stopped him. Wait. He didn't turn. But he didn't open it either. Is he restrained? She asked. Yes, one of the men said. Chains. And the rope. Good, she said. A pause. Then, quieter. Don't break them. Caelric's jaw shifted slightly. He will, he said. Not if you don't push him to. That brought his gaze back to her. You think I caused the last one? He asked. No, she said. But you made it harder. A flicker of something sharp moved through him, brief, contained. Open it, she added. He did. The smell hit first. Stronger than before. Not just wrong, turning. The wolf inside lunged the moment the door cracked, chains snapping taut with a metallic scream. Its body slammed forward, teeth bared, foam thick at its mouth. The rope outside jerked violently in the men's hands. It didn't see them. It didn't see anything. It just reacted. Lyreth stepped past him. Not reckless. Measured. Caelric closed the door behind them, sealing the noise into the smaller space. The hut was dim, lit only by a single hanging lamp and the low glow of embers in a stone basin. The wolf strained against iron fixed to the floor, its limbs jerking in uneven bursts. Its eyes were worse than the last, almost entirely clouded now, only fragments of gold breaking through. Too far gone. His instinct said it immediately. End it. Lyreth didn't reach for a weapon. She set her shoulders once, steadying herself in a way most wouldn't notice. Caelric did. He moved to the side of the wolf, not touching it, but close enough to react if it broke free. Close enough to stop it. Close enough to end it. Lyreth circled the other way. Slow. Controlled. Her boots barely made a sound against the packed earth. The wolf's head snapped toward her mid-step. Its body stilled for half a breath. Then trembled. Not calmer. Conflicted. It didn't understand what it was sensing. Neither did Caelric. But he felt it. That same shift in the air as before, subtle, but undeniable. Her presence pressing against something broken inside the wolf. "Hold him," she said. Caelric didn't move. "He's chained." "Not enough." A beat. Then he stepped closer. The wolf reacted immediately, thrashing harder, claws scraping sparks from stone. Its teeth snapped toward him, jaws clashing inches from his arm. Caelric dropped his weight, one hand gripping the chain near its collar, forcing its head down just enough to control the angle. Not hurting. Containing. The wolf fought him. Hard. Harder than the last. Lyreth closed the remaining distance. Caelric felt it before he saw it. That pull again. Stronger now. Not directed at the wolf. At her. His grip tightened without meaning to. His breathing shifted. Deeper. Slower. The space in the hut narrowed. "If you come closer," she said, not looking at him, "I won't be able to do this." He frowned slightly. "I'm not." Then he stopped. Because he was. Not stepping. But leaning. His body had angled toward her without permission, drawn in by something he didn't have a name for. His hand loosened on the chain, just enough to readjust. He forced himself back half a step. The difference was immediate. Sharp. Like pulling away from a heat source he hadn't realized was burning him. Lyreth didn't look at him. But her shoulders dropped a fraction. "Stay there," she said. He did. Barely. The wolf shuddered under his hold, its movements growing more erratic again as her focus settled fully on it. Lyreth lifted her hand. Paused. Just above the wolf's neck. Caelric watched the moment stretch. Watched the slight tremor in her fingers she tried to still. Watched the way her breath caught once before she forced it steady again. Then she touched it. The change wasn't as immediate this time. The wolf convulsed once, violently, body arching against the chains. A guttural sound tore from its throat, raw, broken. Caelric tightened his grip, bracing. "Easy," he muttered, more instinct than instruction. Lyreth's jaw clenched. "Don't talk," she said under her breath. He stilled. The wolf's body shuddered again. Then slowed. Not stopped. Not yet. Lyreth leaned slightly closer, her focus narrowing completely. Her scent shifted again, sharper now, colder, edged with something that felt almost metallic in the back of his throat. Caelric's breath deepened again without his permission. He stayed where he was. He tried. But something in him strained toward her. Not consciously. Not a decision. A response. His hand shifted on the chain again, grip tightening, grounding himself in the physical strain of holding the wolf down. The wolf's breathing began to even. Slowly. Piece by piece. Its eyes flickered, clouded gold fighting through the haze. Lyreth held steady. Didn't pull away. Didn't rush it. The moment stretched. Then snapped. Lyreth flinched. Not from the wolf. From something else. Her shoulders jerked, breath catching sharply in her throat. Caelric saw it. Felt it. Something in the air twisted. His body reacted before his mind did. His hand lifted. Not toward the wolf. Toward her. Her shoulder was right there. Close. Too close. He didn't think. Didn't weigh it. His fingers moved. Don't. The word cut through him. Sharp. Immediate. He stopped. But it was too late. Not the touch. He hadn't made it that far. But the distance. He'd crossed something. Lyreth's body went rigid. Not from fear. From reaction. A sharp inhale pulled through her, uneven, like something inside her had tightened suddenly. Her hand pressed harder into the wolf's neck, forcing herself to stay anchored to the task. Caelric stepped back. Fast. This time fully. The shift in the air eased, but not completely. Lyreth exhaled slowly, but it didn't smooth out. It dragged. Controlled. The wolf stilled beneath her. Finally. Its body sagged against the chains, tension bleeding out in long, exhausted breaths. Its eyes cleared, confused, weak, but aware. Alive. Again. Lyreth pulled her hand away. Too quickly. Her balance wavered. Caelric didn't move. Didn't reach. He held himself exactly where he was, every instinct in him screaming to close the distance. To steady her. He didn't. Lyreth braced one hand against the wall, head dipping slightly as she caught her breath. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The wolf lay still. The hut held its silence. Then, "That's new," she said quietly. Her voice was steady. Barely. Caelric's brow furrowed. "What is?" She straightened slowly, turning just enough to look at him. Not fully. Not closing the space. "That," she said, nodding faintly toward the distance between them. "You didn't touch me." That was the idea. Her gaze held his. And it still affected me. The words settled heavy. Caelric didn't answer immediately. He replayed the moment in his mind, the shift, the reaction, the way she'd flinched without contact. "You're saying I didn't have to?" he asked. "I'm saying," she replied, "you're closer than you think." Something in his chest tightened again. "That doesn't make sense." "It doesn't have to." A beat. Then, quieter. "It just has to be true." Caelric looked at her, really looked. At the strain she couldn't fully hide now. At the way her control was thinning at the edges. At the way she still hadn't stepped farther away. "You knew this could happen?" he asked. "No." "Then what changed?" Lyreth hesitated. For the first time since he'd met her. A real hesitation. Small. But there. "I don't know," she said. It wasn't deflection. It was worse. It was honest. The space between them tightened again, not physically, but in weight. In implication. Caelric took a slow breath. "You should stop," he said. She almost smiled. Almost. "You first." "That's not the same." "No," she agreed. "It's not." Another silence. Thicker now. Charged with something neither of them had named. The wolf behind them shifted weakly, a soft sound breaking from its throat. Alive. Because of her. Dying, maybe, because of him. Caelric's gaze dropped briefly, then returned to her. "You're not going to last," he said. Blunt. Unsoftened. Lyreth didn't argue it. "I know. And you're still going to keep doing this?" "Yes. Even if it kills you." She held his gaze. A beat. Then. "Yes." The word didn't shake. That was the problem. Caelric exhaled slowly, something heavier settling into his posture now. Not frustration. Not anger. Something more deliberate. "You don't get to decide that alone," he said again. Lyreth's expression shifted. Just slightly. You already said that. I meant it. I know. Another pause. Then. That's what makes it dangerous. Caelric stepped forward. Not enough to close the distance. But enough to change it. To test it. Lyreth didn't move back. Didn't move at all. Her breath caught again, sharper this time. Not from fear. From something else. You keep telling me to stay away, he said, voice low, controlled. But you're still here. Her fingers curled at her sides. So are you. That's different. Is it? A beat. The space between them felt thinner now. Fragile. Like something held together by restraint alone. Caelric looked at her. At the line she hadn't crossed. At the one he was standing on. I could leave, he said. Lyreth's gaze flickered. Just for a second. Too quick to hide. Then go, she said. Quiet. Even. But something under it shifted. Caelric didn't move. Didn't step back. Didn't step forward. He just stood there. Close enough now that he could hear the uneven edge of her breathing again. Close enough to feel the pull sharpen into something almost unbearable. I'm not going to, he said. The words settled between them. Heavy. Final. Lyreth swallowed. A small movement. But he saw it. He saw all of it. And for the first time. She didn't tell him to stop. The hut emptied slowly. Not all at once, nothing in Astravel ever did, but in quiet increments. The men who had held the rope came first, casting lingering glances at the wolf now lying weak but aware. One of them murmured something low, grateful, uncertain. The other didn't speak at all. They avoided Lyreth. Not out of fear. Out of something closer to reverence they didn't understand. Caelric stayed where he was. He didn't look at them. Didn't acknowledge their thanks. His attention never fully left her. Lyreth felt it. Even as she moved, measured, controlled, checking the wolf one last time, adjusting the slack in the chain so it wouldn't choke itself if it startled awake. Her movements were efficient, practiced. No wasted effort. No unnecessary motion. Except, there was a fraction too much care in it now. A fraction too much time taken between actions. He noticed. Of course he did. Leave him, Caelric said. She didn't look at him. I'm making sure he doesn't hurt himself. He won't. You don't know that. I do. A pause. Not resistance. Consideration. Then she stepped back. Not because he told her to. Because she was done. That mattered. They stood there for a moment longer, the wolf's slow breathing filling the small space between them. The tension hadn't broken. It had shifted, thinned in some places, sharpened in others. Lyreth moved first. She crossed the hut without looking at him, stopping near the basin where water sat dark and still. She dipped her fingers into it, rinsing the dried blood from her skin. The red didn't fully wash away. It smeared. Faded. Left something behind. Caelric watched the way her hand steadied against the rim for half a second longer than necessary. Then released. You should rest, he said. She let out a quiet breath. Almost a laugh. Is that an order? No. Good. She dried her hand on a cloth, slow, deliberate. But she didn't leave. Neither did he. The silence stretched again. Different now. Less about distance. More about what sat underneath it. Lyreth turned slightly, not facing him fully, but no longer turned away either. "You're still here," she said. "You noticed." "I always notice." That wasn't meant to be sharp. But it landed that way anyway. Caelric didn't respond. Because he understood what she meant. He noticed too. Too much. Lyreth reached for her gauntlet. Stopped. Her fingers hovered over it for a second before pulling back. A small thing. Easy to miss. He didn't. "Put it on," he said. She stilled. Then. "No." Simple. Flat. Not defiant. Decided. Caelric's gaze dropped to her arm. Bare now from wrist to elbow. The skin there wasn't untouched. Not like it should have been. He stepped forward before he could stop himself. Lyreth's breath caught. "Don't." But he already had. Not touching. Not yet. Close enough to see. To understand. The veins beneath her skin were wrong. Not swollen. Not bruised. Darkened. Like ink spreading through water, slow and uneven, threading outward from somewhere deeper, something unseen. Not injury. Not sickness. Corruption. It pulsed faintly. In time with her heartbeat. Caelric went still. The world narrowed to that single point. "What is that?" he asked. His voice had changed. Lower. Quieter. Not controlled. Held. Lyreth didn't answer. Her arm shifted slightly, like she might pull it back. He moved faster. Not touching. Blocking. Just enough. "Don't," he said. The word mirrored hers from earlier. This time, it wasn't a warning. It was something closer to a refusal. Lyreth's jaw tightened. "It's nothing." "No." The answer came immediately. "Certain." She exhaled slowly, her shoulders rising and falling in a controlled motion. "It's the cost." Caelric's gaze didn't leave her arm. "It wasn't there before." "It was," she said. "You just couldn't see it." His brow furrowed slightly. "It's spreading." "Yes." The word landed heavier than anything else she'd said. No hesitation. No attempt to soften it. Just truth. Caelric lifted his gaze to her face. "And you're still doing this?" It wasn't a question. Lyreth met his eyes. "Held them?" "Yes." Silence stretched. Longer this time. More dangerous. "What is it doing to you?" he asked. She didn't answer. Not immediately. Her gaze flickered away for the first time, not to the door, not to the wolf, but inward, like she was measuring something she didn't want to name. "It takes," she said finally. "From where?" "Wherever it needs to." That's not an answer. It's the only one that matters. Caelric took another step. Closer now. Too close. The air shifted again, subtle, but sharper this time. Lyreth felt it. He saw it in the way her shoulders tensed, the way her breath caught halfway through. "Every time you do that," he said, voice lower now, "it gets worse." "Yes." "And you don't know when it stops." "No." His jaw tightened. "Or if it stops." "A beat." "Then." "No." The words settled between them like something final. Like something already decided. Caelric's chest rose with a slow breath. Fell. Rose again. "You should have told me." Lyreth's gaze snapped back to his. "Why?" "So I could stop you." A flicker of something crossed her face. Not anger. Not quite. Something sharper. You can't. I can try. And if I don't let you, then I find another way. She almost smiled again. Almost. That's not how this works. Then explain it. The tension snapped tighter. Lyreth hesitated. There it was again. That fracture. Small. Real. She looked at him, really looked this time, like she was weighing something heavier than before. Something she hadn't intended to give. You already know enough, she said. I don't. You do. I don't, he repeated, sharper now. Not the part that matters. A long pause. The fire cracked behind them. The wolf shifted weakly in its chains. Lyreth exhaled slowly. Then, every time I heal one of you, she said, it takes something back. Caelric went still. He understood the words, but not the weight behind them. What does that mean? It means, she said, her voice quieter now, it doesn't come from nowhere. His gaze dropped again to her arm. To the darkening veins. Then back to her. It's killing you. She didn't answer. Didn't need to. The silence said enough. Caelric's throat tightened slightly. And you keep doing it? Yes. Why? Lyreth held his gaze. For the same reason you didn't kill them. The answer landed again. Heavier this time. Because now he knew what it cost. Caelric exhaled through his nose, slow, controlled. That's not enough. It is to me. A beat. Then, quieter. It has to be. The space between them shifted again. Not just tension now. Something closer to understanding. Uncomfortable. Unwanted. But real. Caelric looked at her. At the strength she was forcing into stillness. At the damage she wasn't hiding anymore. At the choice she kept making. And something in him shifted with it. Not instinct. Not reaction. Choice. What happens if I touch you? He asked. The question came out quieter than he expected. But it cut deeper. Lyreth didn't look away. Not this time. She met his gaze fully. Held it. And for the first time since he'd met her, there was no deflection. No redirection. Just truth. You won't stop. The words settled into him. Slow. Heavy. What does that mean? A pause. Long enough to matter. Then, it means, she said, your wolf will decide something before you do. His jaw tightened. And you? Lyreth's gaze didn't waver. I won't be able to fight it. Silence. Thick. Unforgiving. The implication unfolded slowly. Not forced. Not spoken. Felt. Caelric's breath deepened. And then? Lyreth's voice dropped, barely above a whisper. Then it takes everything. The words didn't shake. But something under them did. Caelric stared at her. At the line she had just drawn. At the cost she had just named. At the thing between them that had gone from tension to something far more dangerous. His hand flexed at his side. Once. Twice. He didn't move. Didn't close the distance. But the space between them felt thinner now. Fragile. Like it could break with the wrong breath. You're asking me to stay away, he said. Yes. And you think I will? I think you should. That's not the same. No, she said. It isn't. Another pause. Then, will you? The question wasn't sharp. Wasn't challenging. It was something worse. Quiet. Real. Caelric didn't answer immediately. Because he didn't have one. Not a clean one. Not one that didn't pull him in two different directions. His gaze dropped briefly, to her arm, to the dark veins still spreading beneath her skin. Then back to her eyes. You should leave, he said instead. Lyreth's expression stilled. That's not what I asked. It's what I'm saying. Why? Because if you stay, he said, voice lower now, this gets worse. Her breath caught. Just slightly. For who? She asked. He didn't answer. Because he didn't know. Or maybe he did. And didn't want to say it. The silence stretched again. Tighter. Closer. Lyreth didn't step back. Didn't break the space. Neither did he. And that was the problem. You're already too close, she said softly. Caelric held her gaze. Felt it. Knew it. Still. I know, he said. And neither of them moved. The hut didn't feel large enough for what sat between them. Not anymore. The air had thickened, too aware, too close, and neither of them stepped back to relieve it. Caelric felt it in the way his body held itself now, like every instinct had been sharpened and then leashed too tight. His wolf didn't settle. It paced, restless under his skin, circling something it didn't understand but refused to ignore. Lyreth stood her ground. That was the problem. She didn't retreat. Didn't break the distance. Didn't make it easier. You should leave, he'd said. She hadn't. And now neither of them moved. The fire cracked low behind them, the only sound for a long moment. Then Lyreth exhaled slowly. I don't stay in one place long, she said. It wasn't agreement. It wasn't refusal. It was information. Caelric watched her. Then don't start now. A flicker crossed her expression. Something quiet. Too late, she said. The words settled heavier than they should have. Before he could answer, another bell rang. This one sharper. Closer. Different. Caelric's head turned toward the door instantly. Not warning. Crisis. He moved. This time, he didn't wait for her. Outside, the air hit colder. The scent came with it, stronger than before, sharper, wrong in a way that made his chest tighten. Not in the square. Not contained. Where? He snapped to the nearest figure. Tree line, the man said, breath uneven. It broke from the lower pens, ran into the woods. Of course it had. Caelric didn't wait. He was already moving, boots cutting through damp earth, the scent pulling him forward like a thread drawn too tight. Behind him. He heard her. Not far. Never far. The trees closed in quickly, pine and shadow swallowing the last of the village light. The ground dipped, roots breaking through the soil, slick with old needles and moisture. The smell grew stronger. Rot. But wilder. Less contained. This one wasn't just turning. It was gone. Caelric slowed. Not stopping. Listening. The forest had gone too quiet. No insects. No wind. Just a sharp exhale. Not his. Not behind him. Ahead. To the left. He turned. Too late. The wolf lunged from the dark, all teeth in motion and wrongness. Its body slammed into something just beyond his reach. Lyreth. She hit the ground hard, air driven from her lungs in a sharp, soundless burst. The wolf came down with her, claws digging, jaws snapping for her throat. She didn't freeze. Didn't hesitate. Her arm came up between them, bracing against its chest, the other hand already reaching. Not for a weapon. For its neck. Don't! Caelric started. Too late. Her fingers made contact. The wolf convulsed. Violently. Not calming. Not yet. It fought it. Harder than the others. Lyreth's body jerked under it, her breath breaking into uneven gasps as she forced the contact to hold. Caelric closed the distance fast. The ground gave under his boots, but he didn't slow. Move, he barked. I can't, she forced out. Her voice wasn't steady anymore. The wolf snapped down, teeth grazing her shoulder, tearing through chainmail just enough to break skin. The scent of her blood hit the air. Everything changed. The wolf lost what little control it had left. It went for her throat. Caelric moved. No thought. No pause. He hit the wolf from the side, driving it off her with a force that sent them both crashing into the roots of a fallen tree. The impact jarred through his bones, but he held on, one hand locking into the fur at its neck, the other bracing against its shoulder to keep its jaws away. Back, he snarled. Lyreth didn't move. She couldn't. Caelric felt it instantly. The difference. Her scent had shifted, sharper, thinner, something unraveling at the edges. The wolf twisted under him, stronger than it should have been, teeth snapping inches from his face. He could end it. He knew he could. But he smelled it again. Under the rot. Something still there. Fighting. Damn it, he muttered. The wolf bucked. Harder. His grip slipped. And in that moment, he saw her. Lyreth pushing herself up, unsteady, one hand pressed to the ground, the other reaching again. Still trying. Even now. Even like this. Stop, he said. She didn't. Of course she didn't. The wolf tore free. Just enough. It lunged past him. Straight for her. Caelric didn't think. Didn't measure. He moved. He reached. And this time, he didn't stop. His hand closed around her arm. Full contact. Everything slowed. Not outside. Inside. His wolf surged. Not like before. Not restrained. Not curious. This was something else. Recognition. Not soft. Not gentle. Sharp. Immediate. Absolute. It wanted. Not her. All of her. Caelric felt it rise through him, fast and overwhelming, something ancient and instinctive that didn't ask permission. Didn't wait for reason. Lyreth gasped. No. Not a gasp. A cry. Sharp. Broken. Her body arched under his grip, not away, but into the contact in a way that didn't make sense. Her fingers dug into his arm, not to pull him off. To hold on. And then, she screamed. Not from fear. Not from pain alone. From something deeper. Something being pulled. Caelric felt it. Gods, he felt it. A rush under his skin, like heat and cold colliding at once, something threading between them that had no shape but demanded everything. His grip tightened. He couldn't stop it. Didn't want to. Didn't. The wolf froze. Not calmed. Not healed. Just stopped. Its body stilled mid-lunge, eyes flickering, confusion breaking through the madness. Then it turned. And ran. Crashing through brush, vanishing into the trees like it had never been there. Caelric didn't notice. He couldn't. Everything had narrowed to the point where his hand held her. Where her body strained against his. Where something inside him refused to let go. Caelric, her voice broke. Not commanding. Not steady. Fractured. That did it. Something in him snapped back into place. Just enough. He let go. Too late. Lyreth collapsed. Her body gave out completely, knees hitting the ground first before the rest of her followed. She didn't catch herself. Didn't try. Caelric reached again. Stopped. His hand hovered inches from her shoulder. He didn't touch her. He couldn't. Not after. Lyreth. No response. He dropped to one knee beside her, close, but not close enough. Her breathing was wrong. Too fast. Too shallow. Her skin had gone pale beneath the dirt and blood, the freckles across her nose standing out starkly now. Look at me, he said, quieter. Her eyes flickered open. Barely. Storm blue dulled at the edges. You shouldn't have, she started. Her voice failed. Caelric swallowed hard, something tight locking in his chest. I know. But it wasn't enough. He could see it. The damage. Not just the wound on her shoulder. Deeper. Her arm lay half-curled against the ground. The veins. Darker. Spreading faster. Not subtle anymore. Not contained. He stared at it. Then at her. What did I do? He asked. The question came out rougher than he intended. Lyreth let out a weak breath. You made it worse. No accusation. Just truth. Caelric's hand curled into a fist against his knee. How much worse? She didn't answer immediately. Her eyes drifted closed again. For a moment, he thought she wouldn't. Then, it speeds it up. The words barely made it out. His chest tightened further. By how much? A pause. Then, I don't know. That was worse than any number. Caelric exhaled slowly, forcing control back into his breathing, into his body, into the part of him that had nearly lost it completely. His gaze dropped again to her arm. To the spreading dark. To the proof of what he'd done. His jaw clenched. I didn't have a choice, he said. Lyreth's lips curved faintly. Not a smile. Not quite. You did. The words were soft. But they landed hard. Caelric looked at her. At the exhaustion she couldn't hide now. At the way she still hadn't pulled away from where he'd been. At the space between them that felt more dangerous than before. You were going to die, he said. So am I. The answer came without hesitation. Without fear. That unsettled him more than anything else. Silence stretched between them, broken only by her uneven breathing and the distant rustle of the forest settling back into itself. Caelric shifted slightly, adjusting his position, but still not touching her. Not again. I need to get you back, he said. Lyreth shook her head weakly. No. That's not your decision. Her eyes opened again, focusing on him with what little strength she had left. It is, she said. A beat. Then. If you carry me, you'll do it again. The truth of that sat between them. Heavy. Unavoidable. Caelric didn't argue. Because he knew. He'd felt it. The pull. The loss of control. He looked at her, really looked, and something in him shifted again. Not instinct. Not the wolf. Choice. Careful. Deliberate. I won't, he said. Lyreth held his gaze. You already did. A pause. Then, quieter. And you didn't stop. The words weren't sharp. They didn't need to be. Caelric's throat tightened. He didn't have an answer for that. Not one that mattered. The forest pressed in around them, quiet again, but not peaceful. Waiting. Watching. Lyreth's breathing hitched once more. Weaker now. Her fingers shifted slightly against the ground, like she was trying to hold onto something that wasn't there. Caelric saw it. Felt it. And for the first time, he didn't step back from it. He leaned in. Just slightly. Not touching. But close enough that his voice dropped, softer than before. I'm not letting you die out here, he said. Lyreth's eyes flickered. Something in them shifted. Not resistance. Not acceptance. Something in between. Fragile. Real. You don't get to decide that, she whispered. Caelric held her gaze. This time. He didn't look away. Watch me, he said. She surfaced slowly. Not into pain. Into absence. It was the first thing she noticed, the lack of it. No crushing weight. No tearing pull under her skin. No violent surge clawing through her veins. Just quiet. Too quiet. Lyreth's lashes fluttered open, her breath shallow but steady enough to hold. The ceiling above her came into focus in fragments, wood beams, smoke-stained, familiar. The healing hut. They had made it back. A flicker of memory tried to follow. Forest. Teeth. His hand. Her body reacted before her mind could catch up. A sharp inhale cut through her chest, and her fingers curled instinctively against the rough fabric beneath her. Waiting for it. The pull. The drain. But it didn't come. Not like before. Weaker now. Distant. Like something that had already taken what it wanted and was no longer in a rush to finish. That frightened her more than the pain ever had. Lyreth turned her head. Slowly. Carefully. And found him. Across the room. Too far. Caelric stood near the doorway, one hand braced against the wooden frame, shoulders set in a way that looked controlled, until you noticed how rigid it was. How still. Like he'd forced himself into that position and didn't trust himself to move from it. He wasn't looking at her. Not directly. But he wasn't looking away either. Watching without closing the distance. The space between them stretched. Deliberate. Sharp. Lyreth studied it for a long moment. Then, quietly. Now you're afraid to come near me. His jaw tightened. Not surprise. Not denial. Recognition. I'm afraid I won't stop. The words came low. Even. But there was something under them now. Something rawer than before. Lyreth let that sit between them. Felt it settle. Tested it. You stopped, she said. A small thing. But not unimportant. Caelric's gaze shifted then, finally landing fully on her. No, he said. A beat. I didn't. The truth of it lingered heavier than anything else he could have said. Lyreth held his gaze. Didn't soften. Didn't push. Just took it in. The restraint. The honesty. The distance. Her fingers shifted slightly at her side, brushing against the edge of the blanket. The movement pulled at her arm just enough to remind her. It wasn't gone. The damage. It had settled deeper. Quieter. Waiting. She exhaled slowly. "You're doing it now," she murmured. His brow furrowed. Holding back, she clarified. Something flickered across his face. Not quite anger. Not quite relief. Something tighter. "It's not difficult," he said. Lyreth almost smiled. Almost. Liar. The word didn't accuse. It observed. Caelric didn't respond to that. Didn't need to. The silence stretched again, heavier now, filled with everything they weren't saying. Everything they had almost said. Until the door opened. Not gently. Not carefully. A rush of cold air broke into the room along with it, carrying scent and urgency and something sharper underneath. Fear. One of Caelric's men stepped in, breath uneven, eyes flicking once toward Lyreth before snapping back to him. "It's worse." Caelric didn't move. "Where?" "Up a ridge," the man said. Two more turned, faster than before. And he hesitated. One of the elders. That landed. Harder than the rest. Lyreth felt it in the way Caelric's posture shifted. Not outwardly. Not in a way most would catch. But she did. The weight of leadership pressing in. The calculation already starting. "How long?" Caelric asked. The man swallowed. "Not long." Silence followed. Heavy. Expectant. Then the man looked at Lyreth again. Not directly. Not fully. But enough. Everyone understood what that meant now. What she meant. What she cost. Lyreth pushed herself up. Slowly. Carefully. Her body resisted, a quiet protest in every movement, but she ignored it. She had learned how to ignore it. Caelric saw. Of course he did. "Don't," he said. Not sharp. Not commanding. But firm enough to matter. Lyreth swung her legs over the edge of the cot anyway. "You said it yourself," she murmured. "Not long. That wasn't for you. It is now." She stood. The room tilted for half a second. She steadied. Didn't fall. Didn't reach for support. But she felt it. The weakness. The edges of herself thinning. Caelric pushed off the doorframe. One step forward. Then stopped. The distance reasserted itself. Deliberate. Painful. Lyreth noticed that too. Of course she did. "You're going to stand there," she said softly, "while they lose control?" His jaw tightened. "That's not what this is." "Then what is it?" The question wasn't sharp. It didn't need to be. Caelric held her gaze. And for a moment, he didn't answer. Because there wasn't a simple one. The truth sat between them, layered and ugly and impossible to ignore now. More wolves were turning. Faster. Harder. They needed her. Every one she saved would take something from her. And now, even standing near him cost her. Even breathing the same air felt like a thread being pulled too tight. Caelric exhaled slowly, forcing the words out. "If you go," he said, "you don't come back the same." Lyreth tilted her head slightly. "I never do." "That's not what I meant." "I know." A pause. Then, "If I don't go," she added quietly, "they don't come back at all." There it was. Clear. Unavoidable. The choice neither of them wanted to name. Caelric looked at her then, not as something dangerous. Not as something fragile. But as something finite. And that changed something in his expression. You don't owe them your life, he said. Lyreth's gaze didn't waver. I know. Another small truth. Another fracture. Caelric took another step forward. Then stopped again. Closer now. But still not enough to touch. Not enough to risk it. His voice dropped. Lower. More controlled. Then why are you doing it? The question wasn't about the wolves. Not really. Lyreth held his gaze for a long moment. Something shifted behind her eyes. Something older. Quieter. I don't like watching things die, she said. Simple. But not light. Caelric's chest tightened. That's not the same as sacrificing yourself for them. No, she agreed. A beat. Then. It's worse. Silence fell again. Heavier now. Because that answer didn't close anything. It opened more. Lyreth took a small step forward. Not enough to close the distance. But enough to test it. The air changed immediately. Subtle. But there. Caelric felt it. So did she. Her breath caught, just slightly. His fingers flexed at his side. Neither of them moved further. I can feel it, she said quietly. Don't. I'm not touching you. That's not what I meant. Her lips parted. Then closed. She understood. Of course she did. Another step would be too much. For both of them. Lyreth exhaled slowly, steadying herself. Then. I'll help them, she said. Not asking. Not defying. Just choosing. Caelric didn't answer immediately. He couldn't. Because the choice in front of him had finally sharpened into something clear enough to cut. Let them turn. Let them die. Or let her keep saving them. Until there was nothing left of her to save. His gaze dropped briefly to her arm. To the faint shadow of dark beneath her skin. Then back to her eyes. You won't last, he said. The words were blunt. Necessary. Lyreth didn't flinch. I know. And you're still going. Yes. A beat. Then, softer. I was always going to. That settled it. Not because he agreed. But because he understood something now he hadn't before. This was an impulse. This was an obligation. This was who she was. And that made it harder. Caelric stepped back. Just one step. But it felt like more. A shift. A line being drawn. Then I go with you, he said. Lyreth's brow furrowed faintly. That's worse. I know. Caelric. I won't touch you. The words came sharper now. More certain. A promise he wasn't entirely sure he could keep. Lyreth searched his face. Measured it. You said that before. He didn't deny it. This time. I mean it. A long pause stretched between them. Then. Lyreth nodded once. Not agreement. Not trust. But something close enough to stand on. Then stay back, she said. Always. The words settled between them. Fragile. Impossible. Necessary. Outside, another distant cry echoed through the village. Closer this time. More urgent. The world didn't wait. Lyreth turned toward the door. Caelric followed. At a distance. Careful. Controlled. Every step measured now. Every breath deliberate. And as they crossed the threshold, he felt it again. That pull. Quieter than before. But deeper. Stronger. Not fading. Becoming something else. Something worse. Something neither of them had named yet. Lyreth paused just outside, her hand brushing briefly against the wooden frame as if grounding herself. She didn't look back. But her voice carried just enough for him to hear. If you lose control again. A pause. Not fear. Not accusation. Something steadier. I won't survive it next time. Caelric's chest tightened. His answer came without hesitation. You won't have to. But the way his voice dropped. The way his breath held after. Said something else entirely. Not certainty. Not control. A promise he didn't fully understand yet. And as they stepped into the growing chaos, the distance between them held. Barely. Like a line drawn in water. Already beginning to break. The village did not quiet. It tightened. Like something slowly drawing breath it didn't know how to release. The air carried it, sharp, restless, threaded with the scent of wolves losing themselves in increments too small for anyone else to notice. But Caelric noticed. He noticed everything now. That was the problem. He stopped going near the healing hut. Not once. Not after that night. Orders were given from a distance. Reports brought to him, not the other way around. Wolves restrained, monitored, rotated, anything to keep the structure intact without requiring him to stand in the same space as her again. It should have helped. It didn't. If anything, it made it worse. His wolf did not understand distance. It did not respect it. It paced. Relentless. Every hour he stayed away, the pressure under his skin built, not eased. A low, constant agitation that never settled, never dulled, only sharpened. Incomplete. That was the feeling. Not hunger. Not exactly. Something left open. Unfinished. Like a wound that refused to close because something essential had been interrupted. He leaned both hands against the wooden table in front of him, head lowered, breath measured. Controlled. Forced. It didn't matter. The scent still found him. Faint. Fading. But there. Clean iron. Wild frost. Weaker than before. That was new. That was wrong. His jaw tightened. He straightened abruptly, pushing away from the table as if distance inside the room could fix what distance outside had already broken. It didn't. Nothing did. Lyreth adjusted her sleeve before stepping outside. Carefully. Always carefully now. The fabric dragged slightly against her skin, and even that was enough to make her pause, not from pain, but from awareness. The veins beneath her arm had spread further. Not dramatically. Not enough for anyone else to notice unless they were looking for it. So she made sure no one was. The gauntlet covered most of it. The rest. She learned to move around. To hide in motion. To distract with purpose. Another wolf lay restrained in the clearing, body shaking, breath ragged. The others stood back, watching with that same quiet, fragile hope that had started to feel heavier than fear. Lyreth knelt beside the wolf. Slower than before. She made it look deliberate. Not strained. Her hand hovered over its chest for half a second longer than necessary. Not hesitation. calculation. Then she placed it down. The reaction came faster now. The wolf arched violently, claws digging into the dirt, a low, broken sound tearing from its throat. Lyreth held steady, breathing through it, containing it. But it took longer. She could feel that too. What used to flow now dragged. What used to respond now resisted. Something in her wasn't keeping pace anymore. By the time the wolf stilled, she was the one fighting to remain upright. Lyreth pulled her hand back slowly, concealing the tremor by curling her fingers inward before rising. No one commented. But they saw. Of course they saw. Hope made people observant. She turned before they could look too long. Before anyone could ask. Caelric watched from the ridge. Far enough. Always far enough. The distance had become a discipline now. A boundary he maintained with the same precision he used in battle. But it cost him. Every second. He could see the difference. In her stance. In the way she rose slower than she had yesterday. In the way she turned away before anyone could catch the full weight of it. And still, she kept going. His fingers flexed at his sides. The urge to move, to close the distance, to stop it, to intervene, pressed hard enough to make his chest feel tight. He didn't. Because he couldn't trust what would happen if he did. And that was the truth he wasn't used to carrying. It got worse at night. For both of them. Lyreth didn't sleep long anymore. Not deeply. Every time she drifted too far, her body pulled her back, like something inside her refused to fully let go. She sat up on the edge of the cot, breath uneven, fingers pressing into her arm as if she could hold the spreading darkness in place by force alone. It didn't work. Nothing did. Except distance. From him. That was the one constant. The one rule that held. And even that. She wasn't sure how long it would last. The door shifted quietly. Not opening fully. Just enough. Lyreth didn't turn. She knew. Of course she knew. The air changed. Not his scent alone. His presence. Held back. Controlled. Too controlled. "You're still awake," Caelric said. He hadn't stepped inside. She could hear it in the way his voice carried. From the threshold. From that careful, deliberate line he refused to cross. "I don't sleep much," she replied. A pause. Then, "I noticed." Silence followed. Not empty. Full. Tight with everything they weren't saying. Lyreth exhaled slowly, gaze fixed ahead. "You can come in," she said. The words settled between them. A test. A risk. A choice. Caelric didn't move. "I shouldn't." "You've been saying that a lot." "It keeps being true." Her lips pressed together faintly. Then. Or convenient. That landed. He stepped in. One step. Only one. But it was enough to shift the air again. Lyreth felt it immediately. Her breath hitched, subtle, but not invisible. Caelric saw. Of course he did. And stopped there. Holding the distance. Holding himself. "You're getting worse," he said. No softness. No deflection. Just truth. Lyreth didn't deny it. "You're avoiding me." A counter. Just as direct. His jaw tightened. "Yes. At least you're honest about that too." Another silence. Shorter this time. Sharper. Lyreth turned her head slightly, enough to look at him from where she sat. The space between them remained. But thinner now. More fragile. "If this ends the way it's going to," she started. The words came quieter than she intended. Not weak. Just real. Caelric cut her off. "It won't." Immediate. Firm. Too fast. Lyreth watched him. Something in her expression shifted. Not disbelief. Not quite. Recognition. "You don't believe that," she said. He didn't answer. Because he couldn't. Not without lying. And she would hear it. They both knew she would. The silence stretched again. Heavier. Closer to breaking. Lyreth's gaze dropped briefly, to the floor, to the space between them, before lifting again. "If I stop," she said quietly, "they die." "I know." "If I don't." She didn't finish. She didn't need to. Caelric took another step forward. Unconscious this time. Not planned. Not measured. Lyreth felt it. Her body reacted before she could stop it, shoulders tightening, breath catching, something under her skin stirring in response. "Don't," she said. Not sharply. Not forcefully. But enough. Caelric froze. Too close now. Closer than he had been since the forest. The air between them shifted again. Thicker. More dangerous. "I'm not touching you," he said. "You don't have to." The truth of that settled and hard. Neither of them moved. Not forward. Not back. Just there. Caught in a space where control thinned and instinct pressed harder than either of them wanted to admit. Lyreth's voice dropped. Softer. "If this keeps going," she murmured. Not finishing. Not naming it. Caelric's throat tightened. "I said it won't." This time. It sounded less certain. Lyreth held his gaze. And for a moment, something almost surfaced. Not a confession. Not yet. But close enough to feel. Close enough to change everything if it was said. Her lips parted. Then stilled. Because something shifted. Not between them. Inside him. Caelric felt it first. A sharp pull, sudden, deeper than before, like something that had been stretching finally snapping taut. His breath hitched. His control slipped. Just for a second. But it was enough. Lyreth felt it too. Her body reacted instantly, a sharp intake of breath, fingers curling into the edge of the cot as something under her skin pulled again. Harder. Faster. More violent than before. Not from touch. From proximity. From him. Their eyes locked. And this time, neither of them pretended they didn't understand. The distance wasn't protecting her anymore. It was feeding it. Caelric stepped back immediately. Too late. The damage had already begun to stir. Lyreth's breathing turned uneven again, her hand pressing hard against her arm as if she could force it to stop. "Go," she said, quieter now. Not anger. Not fear. Urgency. Caelric didn't argue. Didn't hesitate. Because for the first time, he understood something worse than before. Avoiding her wasn't fixing it. It was making it stronger. He turned and left. Fast. Controlled only by the need to get away before control failed completely. The door closed behind him. And the moment it did, Lyreth exhaled sharply, her body folding forward as the pull inside her surged once more before slowly easing. Not gone. Never gone. Just waiting. Her fingers trembled against her arm. Her breath steadied in fragments. And her eyes closed briefly as the realization settled in fully. This wasn't stopping. Not with distance. Not with restraint. Not with anything they were doing. Outside. Caelric stopped only when the night air hit hard enough to force breath back into his lungs. His hands curled into fists at his sides, chest rising and falling too fast, too sharp. His wolf didn't settle. It surged. Stronger than before. Closer to the surface. Closer to breaking through. Incomplete. Still reaching. Still wanting. And now. Worse. Because it wasn't just instinct anymore. It was becoming need. Caelric dragged the hand through his hair, breath unsteady as he stared out into the dark. This ends, he muttered under his breath. But it didn't sound like certainty. It sounded like defiance. And somewhere behind him. Inside the hut. Lyreth sat in the dim light, her hand pressed to the spreading dark beneath her skin, her breathing finally slowing as the worst of it passed. For now. Her eyes opened again. Quiet. Tired. Certain in a way she hadn't been before. If this ends, she whispered to no one. Then stopped. Because now. She knew something he didn't. And that knowledge settled heavy in her chest as she looked toward the closed door. Not fear. Not quite acceptance. Something steadier. Something more dangerous. Because for the first time, she wasn't sure which would come first. His control breaking. Or her running out of time. The break came all at once. Not gradual. Not controlled. One moment, the village held its fragile shape, tight, strained, barely contained. The next, it fractured. A howl tore through Astravel's upper ridge, sharp enough to split the air. Then another answered it. Then a third, closer, wrong in a way that made every instinct in Caelric's body snap to attention. Not one. Not two. Too many. Too fast. Alpha. He was already moving. The ground blurred beneath his stride as he cut through the clearing, the scent hitting him before the sound fully caught up. Rot. Blood. Pine crushed under frantic movement. And beneath it. Panic. Not just from the wolves. From his people. 3 wolves had broken their restraints. A 4th was halfway through. Bodies thrashed against wood and iron, teeth snapping, eyes blown wide with something beyond rage, something that had crossed the line Lyreth had been holding back. Too far gone. Or almost. Caelric didn't hesitate. Pulled back, he barked. Give them space. No one argued. They knew. They'd seen what happened when they got too close. The nearest wolf lunged, chains snapping taut as it threw itself forward, jaws catching the air where a man had stood a second before. Another broke free. This one smaller. Faster. It hit the ground running. Straight toward the center of the clearing. Straight toward her. Lyreth had already stepped forward. Of course she had. She didn't wait for instruction. Didn't look for permission. Her movements were slower than before, but not uncertain. Never uncertain. This is what I came here for. The words were quiet. But they carried. Through the chaos. Through the fear. Through him. Caelric reached her in 2 strides. Didn't touch. Didn't dare. But he stopped in front of her, close enough that the air shifted sharply, that her breath caught just slightly, that his control had to lock down hard to keep from breaking again. "No," he said. Not loud. Not commanding. But absolute. Lyreth didn't step back. Didn't flinch from the closeness. If anything, she held it. Challenged it. "They won't survive this without me. And you won't survive it with them." The truth landed between them. Clear. Final. Lyreth's gaze didn't waver. "I know." Another wolf slammed into a post behind them, wood cracking under the force. Time was running. Too fast. Caelric's voice dropped. "Tighter now. And you're still going." "Yes." No hesitation. No pause. Just choice. It hit him harder than any defiance could have. Because it wasn't rebellion. It wasn't recklessness. It was certainty. And that made it harder to stop. He stepped closer. A mistake. He knew it the second the distance shrank. Her breath caught. His chest tightened. The pull surged, sharp, immediate, like something inside him recognizing the moment and demanding more. But he held. Barely. "And what about you?" he asked. The question came quieter now. Not for the others. Just for her. Lyreth's lips parted. For a moment. Something flickered. Not doubt. Not fear. Something softer. Then it was gone. "I was never part of the bargain." The words landed like a blade. Not dramatic. Not raised. Just true. Caelric felt it. Felt the shift it caused inside him. Something tightening. Something refusing. Behind them, another wolf broke free. A handler shouted. Someone screamed. The chaos was closing in. And still, they didn't move. Didn't break the line between them. "You think that makes it easier?" Caelric asked, voice low. Lyreth shook her head slightly. "No." "Then why say it like it does?" "Because it's the only way it works." A beat. Then, "If I start thinking about myself, I stop." Her voice didn't shake. Didn't falter. But there was something under it now. Something closer to the surface than she'd allowed before. "And if I stop," she added. She didn't finish. She didn't need to. Caelric's jaw tightened. "I can handle them," he said. A lie. They both knew it. Not all of them. Not like this. Not without losing more than they could afford. Lyreth stepped to the side. Not away from him. Around him. Intent clear. Caelric moved with her. Blocked her path again. Still not touching. But closer than before. Too close. The air between them thickened instantly. Her breath hitched. His control strained. "Move," she said. "Not like this. There isn't another way." "There is." "What?" she pressed. He didn't answer. Because there wasn't one he trusted. Not that wouldn't cost more. Lyreth saw it. Of course she did. The hesitation. The conflict. The fracture in his certainty. Another howl cut through the clearing, closer now, one of the wolves lunging toward the outer edge where the others had retreated. Time was gone. Lyreth's voice softened. Not weaker. Just closer. Caelric. He stilled. The way she said his name. Not as Alpha. Not as command. As him. It shifted something. Just enough. I need you to let me do this, she said. The words weren't a plea. They weren't distant either. They sat somewhere in between. Careful. Chosen. That made it worse. Because it wasn't desperation. It was trust. And he didn't know what to do with that. His gaze dropped, briefly, to her arm. To the faint shadow beneath her skin. Then back to her eyes. You won't come back from it, he said. Lyreth held his gaze. I know. And you're still asking me to stand here and let it happen. No, she said quietly. A pause. Then, I'm asking you not to stop me. The distinction settled heavily between them. Not permission. Not agreement. Just absence of interference. Caelric exhaled slowly. His control was slipping again. Not outwardly. Not yet. But he could feel it. The way his wolf pressed harder now, reacting not just to her presence, but to the choice in front of him. To the idea of letting her go. To the idea of losing her before he'd even. He cut the thought off. Hard. Lyreth took another step. Closer. This time. He didn't move to block her. Didn't move at all. The space between them narrowed to something fragile. Dangerous. Her breath brushed the edge of his chest. His fingers twitched at his side. Neither of them touched. But it felt like they already had. If this is the last time, she started. Caelric cut her off. No. Not sharp. But immediate. Refusal. Lyreth's gaze flickered. Not surprised. Not entirely. You don't get to decide that, she said softly. His chest tightened. Neither do you. A beat. The chaos behind them surged again, another wolf breaking free, another shout, another crack of wood giving under strain. Lyreth didn't look away from him. Didn't break the moment. Even now. Especially now. That's exactly what I'm doing, she said. And there it was. The shift. Not in power. In ownership. Of her choice. Of the cost. Of herself. Caelric felt it. Felt the ground beneath everything they'd been holding tilt just slightly. He could stop her. Physically. He knew he could. But that would mean touch. And that would end her faster than anything else. The choice sharpened. Brutal. Simple. Let her go. And watch her die slowly saving them. Or stop her. And risk killing her himself. His breath came slower. Heavier. Controlled by force alone. Lyreth's voice dropped again. Quieter. If you're going to stop me, she said, do it now. A challenge. Not spoken like one. But felt like it. Caelric didn't move. Didn't reach. Didn't break. Because for the first time, he understood something he hadn't before. This wasn't about control. Not his. Not hers. It was about choice. And what it cost to respect it. Lyreth held his gaze 1 second longer. Then, she stepped past him. Close enough that the air shifted violently between them, that his breath caught hard in his chest, that her body reacted in a sharp, involuntary tension. But she didn't stop. Didn't falter. She moved into the chaos. Toward the first wolf. Toward the end she already understood. Caelric stood still. For 1 second. 2. 3. Then his hand lifted. Unconsciously. Reaching. Stopping. hovering in empty air where she had just been. His fingers curled slowly, tightly, as something inside him surged hard enough to make his vision sharpen. Not control. Not instinct. Something breaking. And across the clearing, Lyreth dropped to her knees beside the first wolf, her hand lifting. Steady. Certain. Even now. Even like this. And just before her fingers made contact, she hesitated. Only for a breath. Only long enough to feel it. Him. Behind her. The pull. Stronger than ever. Closer than it had any right to be. Her eyes closed briefly. And under her breath. So quiet it barely existed. Don't come closer. But the way her voice caught. Said something else entirely. Because this time. She wasn't sure if she was warning him. Or herself. The wolf beneath her hands didn't respond. Not the way it should have. Lyreth felt it immediately. The resistance. Where there should have been a thread, something to catch, something to pull back, there was only fracture. Too many fractures. Too deep. Her palm pressed harder against its chest, fingers splaying slightly as she forced her focus to narrow, to sharpen past the tremor already starting in her arm. Easy, she murmured, though her voice had lost some of its steadiness. The wolf convulsed. Not slowing. Not breaking. Fighting harder than anything she'd faced before. Behind her, another howl cut through the clearing, one of the others slipping further, faster. Time collapsed inward. Lyreth drew a breath. Reaching deeper. Further than she had before. And something inside her gave. Not all at once. But enough. Her vision blurred at the edges, the world tilting as the connections snapped into place, and immediately began to drain. Faster. Far too fast. Her shoulders tightened, her body pulling forward as if bracing against a force no one else could see. No, someone whispered behind her. Lyreth didn't hear who. Didn't care. She pushed harder. The wolf shuddered beneath her hand. For a moment. Just a moment. Its eyes cleared. Then the darkness surged back. Stronger. Lyreth's breath broke. Her other hand dropped to the ground to steady herself, fingers digging into the dirt as the strength bled out of her too quickly to compensate. Not enough. It wasn't enough anymore. She felt it with a clarity that stripped everything else away. This one. All of them. Too far gone. Her body couldn't hold it. Not like this. Not alone. The realization didn't come with panic. Just certainty. Her arm trembled harder, the dark beneath her skin flaring, spreading visibly now, no longer something she could hide or contain. Her breath hitched. Once. Twice. Then. She faltered. Her hand slipped. The connection broke. The wolf lunged. Not fully wild. But close enough. Lyreth didn't move fast enough to stop it. Didn't have enough left. Behind her. Caelric felt it the second it shifted. The break. The failure. The moment everything tipped past recovery. He was already moving before the thought fully formed. Before restraint could catch up. Before control could matter. Because this was the end of the line. The choice he'd been holding back from was gone. The wolf lunged. Lyreth didn't rise. Didn't have time. Didn't have strength. Caelric closed the distance. No hesitation. No calculation. He reached her. And this time, he didn't stop. His hand closed around her shoulder, the other bracing at her back as he pulled her up and into him. Full contact. Complete. Immediate. The world didn't slow. It fractured. His wolf surged. Not restrained. Not circling. Not questioning. It recognized. Fully. Finally. And it didn't hold back. The bond ignited. Not a thread this time. Not a pull. A collision. Sharp. Total. Overwhelming. Caelric felt it tear through him, heat and instinct and something deeper, older, that had been building since the first moment he'd stepped too close. His arms tightened around her. Not to trap. To hold. To anchor. Lyreth gasped. Then screamed. But not like before. This wasn't something being taken. It was something being forced open. Her body arched against his, fingers gripping into his shirt, not to push away, but because there was nowhere else to hold. The pull came. Harder than ever. Faster. But different. Caelric felt it. The moment it should have turned. Should have consumed. Should have drained her dry. It didn't. It met something. Not resistance. Not rejection. Balance. The force that surged from him didn't tear through her. It collided with what she carried. And instead of breaking, it steadied. His breath caught. The pressure in his chest shifted, no longer a frantic, clawing need, but something deeper, heavier, that settled instead of tore. Lyreth felt it too. Her scream broke into something else. Her grip on him changed. Not desperation. Not survival. Something closer to control. The darkness in her veins flared. Then stopped spreading. Not gone. But held. Contained. For the first time since it began. Her breath stuttered, then steadied in uneven pulls as the connection between them changed. Not draining. Not taking. Flowing. Both ways. The wolf in front of them froze. Mid-lunge. Its body locked, trembling violently as the madness inside it cracked. Not suppressed. Not forced down. Broken. Cleanly. Completely. The shift rippled outward. The other wolves, one by one, stopped. Not all at once, but fast enough to feel like it. The snapping slowed. The howling cut off mid-sound. Bodies that had been thrashing moments before stilled, chests heaving as confusion replaced the blind, violent rage. Silence spread. Not empty, but stunned. Caelric didn't see it. Didn't register the clearing. The wolves. The people. Because everything, had narrowed to the woman in his arms. Lyretha's breathing steadied slowly, her body still pressed against his, still held fully, completely, without distance left between them. Her fingers loosened slightly against his chest. But didn't let go. Not yet. Neither did he. He couldn't. Not because of instinct. Not anymore. Because something had changed. Fundamentally. The bond wasn't incomplete now. But it wasn't what he expected either. It didn't demand. It didn't consume. It held. He felt her. Not as something to claim, but as something present. Alive. Connected. And not breaking. His grip tightened, just slightly. Testing. Careful. Lyreth didn't flinch. Didn't weaken. Her head tilted back just enough to look at him, her storm blue eyes clearer than they had been since he'd met her. Stronger. But not untouched. Never untouched. You, she started. Her voice caught. Not from pain. From the weight of what had just happened. Caelric's gaze didn't leave hers. What did we do? He asked. Not accusation. Not fear. Just truth. Lyreth swallowed slowly. Her breath still uneven, but no longer failing. I don't think, she said quietly, it was just you. A beat. Then. Or just me. The words settled between them. Heavy. Unfinished. But undeniable. Around them, movement slowly returned, cautious, uncertain, the wolves shifting, confused but no longer lost. Saved. All of them. Without cost. Or at least. Not the one they had expected. Caelric felt it then. Not the chaos. Not the others. Something closer. Still between them. Still active. Not fading. If anything. Stabilizing. Deepening. His hand shifted slightly against her back. Not pulling her closer. Not letting her go. Just there. Deliberate. Aware. Lyreth felt it. Her breath caught, soft, sharp, involuntary. And for a moment, neither of them moved. Didn't step apart. Didn't break the contact they had both spent so long trying to avoid. Because now, it wasn't killing her. And that changed everything. Her gaze flickered, just briefly, to his mouth, then back to his eyes. Not intentional. Not entirely. But not hidden either. Caelric noticed. Of course he did. Something in his expression shifted. Not control. Not restraint. Something more dangerous. Because now, there was nothing stopping him. Except choice. His voice dropped. Quieter than before. Rougher. This isn't over. Lyreth held his gaze. No, she said. A breath. Then, softer. It's just different. The words lingered between them. Not resolution. Not relief. A beginning. And as the silence stretched. Charged. Fragile. On the edge of something neither of them had stepped into yet. Caelric didn't let go. And neither did she. Not this time. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It settled. Like something long fractured had finally aligned. Not perfectly. Not safely. But enough to breathe again. Lyreth didn't remember when her grip on him loosened. Only that at some point, the urgency left her hands, her fingers resting instead of clinging, still curved lightly into the fabric at his chest, as though her body hadn't yet decided whether it was allowed to let go. Caelric hadn't moved. Not away. Not closer. Just there. Present in a way he had avoided before. His arms no longer locked around her, but not withdrawn either, one still braced at her back, steady, deliberate, as if testing the boundary of what was now safe. Or what felt safe. Lyreth drew a slow breath. It didn't burn. Didn't splinter through her ribs the way it had begun to. The ache was still there, deep, quiet, woven into her bones, but it wasn't consuming her anymore. That alone felt unreal. Her eyes lowered briefly, as though checking her own body for the damage she expected to find worsening. It wasn't gone. The faint shadows beneath her skin still lingered, like ink that hadn't fully faded. But they weren't spreading. For the first time since she had crossed into Astravel. They were still. Her throat tightened. Not from pain. From the absence of it. "You're steady," Caelric said. His voice was low, controlled, but there was something under it now. Not urgency. Not restraint. Awareness. Lyreth glanced up at him. "You sound surprised." "I am." No deflection. No attempt to soften it. Just truth. His gaze didn't leave her as he spoke, as though he was still measuring something, not her weakness this time, but her presence. Whether she would fade. Whether this would break. Lyreth exhaled quietly. "I should be worse." A simple statement. But it carried weight. Because they both knew what worse meant. He didn't answer immediately. Didn't need to. The space between them shifted, not tense, not fragile, but edged with something more difficult to name. Something that had teeth. Because now, there was a possibility they hadn't had before. And that was far more dangerous than inevitability. Around them, the clearing had begun to breathe again. The wolves, those who had been lost minutes ago, were rising slowly, unsteady but aware. Some looked at their hands. Others at each other. Confusion. Relief. Disbelief. No one approached. Not yet. They were watching. Waiting. For him. For her. For what this meant. Caelric felt it, the weight of their attention, but for once, it didn't pull him away. Didn't take priority. Not over this. His hand shifted slightly against Lyreth's back, not tightening, not claiming. Just adjusting. A careful recalibration. Lyreth noticed. Of course she did. Her breath caught, soft and nearly soundless. Not fear. Recognition. "You're not pulling away," she said. There was no accusation in it. Only observation. And something quieter beneath it. Caelric's jaw tightened, just briefly. "I don't need to." The words were simple. But they carried more than he said. Before, distance had been survival. Now, it wasn't. That didn't make closeness safe. It made it a choice. And choices were harder. Lyreth studied him for a moment longer. Then, slowly, she shifted. Not away. Closer. Barely. Just enough that the space between them, what little remained, disappeared completely. The movement was small. Deliberate. And entirely hers. Caelric went still. Not because he didn't want it. Because he did. Too much. The instinct rose immediately, sharp, certain, pressing against the fragile control he had rebuilt in the aftermath of the bonds snapping into place. But it wasn't the same instinct as before. It didn't demand. It waited. And that was new. Lyreth felt it. The difference. The way the tension in him didn't spike into something consuming, but coiled instead, contained, aware, responding rather than overtaking. Her hand lifted slowly from his chest. Not to push him back. To rest higher. At his shoulder. Light. Testing. Caelric's breath deepened. Not uneven. Not losing control. Just heavier. "You're learning," she murmured. A faint thread of something almost like humor touched her voice, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Because this wasn't easy. Not for either of them. His gaze darkened slightly. "So are you." A beat. Then, quieter. "You didn't collapse." Lyreth's lips parted. Closed. Something flickered across her expression, something sharper than relief. I thought I would. It was the closest she had come to admitting fear. Not dressed in deflection. Not hidden behind purpose. Just there. Between them. Caelric felt it. More clearly than anything she'd said before. And something in him shifted in response. His hand moved, slightly higher along her back. Still careful. Always careful. But no longer distant. You almost did, he said. Not to diminish. To acknowledge. Lyreth gave a small breath of a laugh, soft, unsteady. Encouraging. It's the truth. Their eyes held. And this time, neither of them looked away. Because the truth wasn't just in what had happened. It was in what hadn't. He hadn't lost control. She hadn't broken. And whatever this was now, it held. Fragile. Unfamiliar. But real. A voice called out from the edge of the clearing, hesitant, uncertain. My Alpha. Caelric didn't respond immediately. Didn't turn. Not yet. Lyreth felt the shift in him anyway, the pull of responsibility returning, the weight of everything beyond this moment pressing back in. But it didn't take him from her. Not completely. Not like before. You should go, she said quietly. Not stepping back. Not moving her hand. Just giving him the option. Caelric's gaze searched hers. For hesitation. For weakness. For any sign that stepping away would undo what had just been built. He didn't find it. What he found instead was steadiness. Worn. Thin. But unbroken. His hand lingered against her back for a moment longer. Then, slowly, he let it fall. Not abrupt. Not reluctant. Measured. Controlled. A choice. Lyreth felt the absence immediately. Not pain. But awareness. The echo of something that had already begun to feel necessary. Her fingers slipped from his shoulder a second later. Also deliberate. Also chosen. The space between them returned. But it didn't feel like distance anymore. It felt held open. Caelric stepped back once. No further. Enough to turn. Enough to face the wolves who were still watching him like something impossible had just happened. Because it had. He didn't speak right away. Didn't need to. The proof was standing behind him. Alive. Still breathing. Lyreth remained where she was. Her knees threatened to give, but didn't. Her body ached, but held. Her gaze stayed on him. Not the Alpha. Not the leader they all saw. Him. And as he stood there, shoulders squared, presence steady, the weight of command settling back over him, he turned his head. Just slightly. Just enough that his eyes found hers again. Across the small space between them. Not checking. Not questioning. Confirming. She was still there. Lyreth didn't look away. Didn't falter. And in that quiet, unspoken exchange, something settled into place. Not a bond that owned. Not a pull that consumed. Something chosen. Something maintained. The cure had never been her blood alone. It had always been balance. It had always been restraint. It had always been the one wolf who could touch her and choose not to take everything.